Hey, what's up everyone? Thunderbob here, and today I'm reviewing a much anticipated piece of cyberpunk fiction starring Keanu Reeves, involving a mercenary who's had some widely sought data uploaded into their brain, and the journey to try to save their own life before it kills them, while being hunted by both corporate goons and rival gangs. I'm of course referring to the classic cyberpunk movie Johnny Mnemonic.
The only way left is to hack your own brain, and then loop it through Joan.
Just kidding, but seriously, these pieces of fiction share so many genre tropes that it can be difficult to tell which one is copying which. Johnny Mnemonic, of course, is a 1995 movie based on a 1981 William Gibson short story. Cyberpunk 2077 is a 2020 video game based on 1988 role-playing game. I'm a huge cyberpunk fan. I've read Neuromancer, Snow Crash, many other genre classics. I've played through every Deus Ex game. Blade Runner is one of my favorite movies. The notion that I could walk through the streets of Night City and experience something inspired by some of my favorite pieces of fiction was like a dream. It's unfortunate that while the game is good, it's marred by several technical issues and design missteps that keep it from reaching that promise. From the very beginning, there are promises of great things. You go through a detailed character creation system that includes selecting a life path. The problem is that these life paths are meaningless and only change the first 15 minutes of the game and a few rare dialogue choices. Other games have done similar things before. Mass Effect had a nearly identical problem. You selected a history that had little impact on the game, except a history that had little impact on the actual game. The difference is, they hyped the life paths in this game to such an extent that people are expecting something more along the lines of Dragon Age, which included an initial character choice that would define the first several hours of gameplay and hugely impact how the world and characters would react to you. It also feels like there was a ton of cut content around the life paths, and even that first year with Jackie, which is shown as just a quick montage of hijinks. The problem is, that's the game I wanted to play. They skipped over the interesting part of the story here. I really enjoy the relationship with Jackie, and I wish they would have explored that for a longer period of time in the game. He was an interesting character, and his and Misty's relationship was an interesting dynamic. With that said, the first few hours of the game are probably the high point of the entire game. It's a very guided experience that prevents you from seeing a lot of the glaring technical and system issues. It introduces a lot of interesting characters and sends you on a few awesome adventures before it really lets you have access to the larger world. Then the game opens up and you start to run into a number of the technical problems and system issues. First up is the AI is basically non-existent for pedestrians, police, and to a large extent the enemies you fight. You can be in the middle of a desert and point a gun at a civilian and the police will teleport behind you. The police also have no driving AI. You can get in a car and run over endless civilians, and they'll never send a squad car after you. It's also very easy to bug out the AI and make them disappear or ignore you at will. Speaking of bugs, this game is quite buggy. I've had characters that spawn inside of each other. I've had important story missions be marred by technical glitches. I've had characters T-pose or slide around in scenes. I've randomly died while walking in geometry throughout the city. I've had serious bugs that require me to reload missions, and in particular, the final mission I had to reload a previous save 5 times in order to complete it. And even things like a motorcycle just stuck in midair and basically having to reload a save because I can't move. That's the kind of bugs you run into in the game. Nothing completely game-breaking that I ran into, but I had to reload multiple missions, multiple saves, and it's quite frustrating. Next is the terrible performance. While the game is certainly beautiful, it also runs like I'm playing it on a Nintendo 64. Even with an overclocked RTX 3080 paired with a 10700K at higher resolutions with all the bells and whistles and ray tracing enabled, you can expect sub 30 frames per second. DLSS is the only thing that makes the game playable with ray tracing enabled. I'm not even going to get started on that console release, but it's even worse there. The game is very beautiful, and there's a huge number of interesting environments that you'll explore during the game that all have a very unique character to them, different areas of the town and the outskirts. And even the character models are incredibly detailed. Some of the just random characters you run into are just amazing looking. And of course, any of the characters involved in the main missions and side missions in particular look really nice. Moving on from performance is the interface. It's a confusing mess of screens within screens within screens. Some things are only accessible from the top level, while other things are nested inside of several layers of interface. The quest log is broken up into main missions, side missions, and gigs. But there's no way to filter these by area, difficulty, type, and sometimes you have so many missions it can be overwhelming. That leads into the level scaling issues. Each area seems to have a set level, and if you try to take out an enemy with a red skull, you're going to die in a single shot. There's no in-game explanation why these enemies are suddenly so tough, and it doesn't quite feel right. There were times when my mission log was literally filled with only missions with these hard enemies, and I thought I had actually broken the game. Finally, there's an extreme lack of player agency and consequence in the game. Rarely do your choices substantially change the outcome of the game beyond the current mission you're playing. Early on, I played a mission where I went against what seemed like the standard answer and helped the Maelstrom gang against a group of corpo goons. I thought maybe later they'd be friendly or it might be referenced, but it appeared to make almost no difference. I've murdered endless gang members and then walked into the leader's office. They don't even mention it or care. There appears to be no faction or reputation system, and you can literally kill anyone without consequence or impact on the game. This follows all the way to the end of the game, where the endings basically boil down to a few side missions and some final choices you make. In the end, even with the misrepresentation of the game, the bugs, the interface issues, and the game just actively working against you at times, I've still enjoyed my time with the game immensely. I sometimes just drive around the city, or walk around and explore the amazing world that they've built, from the amazing architecture, the abundant satirical billboards and posters, even the minor things like watching a random NPC on a dirty couch play guitar. This is the most complete cyberpunk world that has ever been created, and I feel like it's a seminal moment for the genre that could help propel it into the public zeitgeist, if they could only work out some of these bugs and issues. The main story and several of the side missions have moments of extreme emotion, both horror and beauty. The game has some of the most interesting characters and performance in recent memory.
I've declared war not because capitalism's a thorn in my side or out of nostalgia for an America gone by. This war's a people's war against a system that spiraled out of our control. It's a war against the fucking forces of entropy. Understand? Do whatever it takes to stop them, defeat them, gut them. If I gotta kill, I'll kill. If I need your body, I'll fucking take it. Fucking hell.
Even Johnny Silverhands, who I initially thought was going to be this cookie cutter, rock star, asshole, ended up having a lot more depth to him, and I actually enjoyed having him pop up and comment on my current predicament. The character models, and especially the facial animations, are simply amazing during most of the major story beats. As long as they don't bug out, that is. And these interactions are some of the most memorable moments of the game. I would highly suggest playing through most of the side missions, especially any of them that lead to romance options. Even if you're not interested in romancing them, they all go into really interesting places for Pan Am, Judy, River, and Carrie. And I would play all of them to the end if you can, as they make an impact on the final outcome of the game. The gameplay is also much deeper than it initially seems, with multiple viable paths between gunplay, hacking, melee, stealth, and even some missions that allow you to talk your way through situations. I primarily played as an assault and blade weapon wielding assassin, but I'm eager to go back and try the hacking tree. There's attribute points, perk points, body mods, clothing, weapons, hacking tools, many other ways to customize your character that I think would encourage multiple playthroughs. An issue though is the number of perks that are essentially useless, or worse, are actually bugged and don't currently do anything. Also, there's a bug with gear where if you use the same item mod multiple times, they stop working and makes itemization frustrating. The character sheet's also very buggy and sometimes requires reloading the game in order to see your real stats. So I probably sound very down on the game, but even with all these issues, I've immensely enjoyed my time with the game, but I do find it hard to recommend to everyone. I think you have to fall into a couple of categories in order to really let me recommend this game to you, and if not, you should probably wait for additional patches. First off, if you can deal with the bugs. None of them are completely game-breaking, though there are the occasional time where you'll need to reload a save, or where a stat just won't work correctly. 2, you need a very, very powerful PC or a next-gen console to really play this game. PlayStation 4 and Xbox One need not apply. And lastly, if you're a fan of cyberpunk fiction, and you've already played through the Deus Ex series, I would definitely recommend playing it in that case. I'm hopeful the majority of the complaints will be addressed through patches. CDPR has always supported their games well and has released 5 patches at the time of this review for the game. I have little doubt that the majority of these complaints will be addressed. With all of these issues, I still enjoyed my time with this game. I put 60 hours into it since release, which for me is a lot of hours. I don't typically play that much. I had some time off because someone close to me passed away, and this kind of was a release from that, so maybe that impacted some of my views on the game and kind of hit close to home in some ways. But overall, I really enjoyed it. If you meet those criteria, I would check it out immediately, and if not, wait for some patches, see what people say, see if it improves things, and check it out. I would highly recommend it at that point. Thank you again for watching. If you enjoyed this, I have a whole channel with reviews, previews, VR content, retro content, modern games. Check out a few videos. If you like what you see, consider subscribing. I would appreciate that. Thanks again for watching. Have a great night, everyone.
Not a single thing in this world isn't in the process of becoming something else. Likewise, you never look back. If you gotta kill, kill. If you gotta burn it all to the ground, then let it burn.
Thanks, for all this.